But let's get more on this story from a human rights activist, Olatunji Lanre-Barua, and he joins us from Abuja. Good to have you on the program. It's a rather sad situation. Reports of Algeria allegedly dumping migrants in the Sahara Desert. What do you make of it?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. It's one of those sad developments again. This is something that you would think that we have overcome in 2017. And I'm particularly sad, and I think the African Union, as usual, we will have to call on the African Union to sit on top of this. And we need to build a new compact for the treatment of migrants across the entire African continent. We have issues with the treatment of migrants, African migrants in Europe, in Italy, but even within the continent, the conditions they are subjected to are actually also less than human. It's not just in Algeria, not just in Libya. There are very, very severe and harsh conditions being meted out to migrants in even in Niger Republic. But this particular one that has to do with Algeria, it's very sad indeed. Dumping migrants in lawless zones where they can easily be extorted, easily be raped, easily be, manhandled, and some of them get killed in the process. In that region of Mali, it's unfortunate, and I think it's something the Algerian government has to be held accountable for.
Mr. Lanre-Barua, sorry to cut you short. Let's look at the defense that Algeria is saying. Report says that Algeria, they're defending their action, saying it's to prevent insecurity and terrorism. They're saying they do not want anybody to cross the border without knowing who they are. Reasonable or not?
Yeah, it is. On the other side, it is reasonable because even if it were to be in Nigeria, we've been very skeptical of people, especially from the Nigerian parts of Nigeria that borders Cameroon, borders Chad, borders Niger. That's the zone where the terrorists also usually use freely in our home case. So the position they are put forward is reasonable. But why I said we need a new compact among African countries on how to treat migrants is you understand that most of the terrorists that you have, Algeria has its own crisis on its own. And I don't think migrants who are trying to get to Europe are coming to Algeria to inflict terror on the populace of Algeria. It's unfortunate, but it is reasonable. And this is where the African body has to step in, and midwife a policy and midwife, an agreement among countries, and especially the North African countries on how to treat migrants. We need to find a safe way of returning them to their countries, a safe way, even create a legal pathway for some of them who could transit to other countries or who might be legitimately afforded the opportunity to stay, even in Algeria. And we have to be able to open our hands and open our borders to ourselves. If Africa is talking about a single, economic bloc, and we can't even allow the free movement of people, it's going to be unfortunate. It's one of the problems. It has its own, ups and downs in itself.
Okay. Recently, we heard the joint report by Norwegian Refugee Council and Internal Displacement Monitoring Team revealing that the numbers of displaced Africans doubled in 2017. But do you see a possible rise in that number this year?
Yeah. I actually, it's unfortunate that in 2018 we've had increase in numbers of conflicts, farmer-herder conflicts across the continent. It's not, farmer-herder conflict is not only in Nigeria, it's happening in Ghana as well. But the one in Nigeria has been getting out of hand progressively. But I know the government is doing all it can, but as it is, the scale of the crisis has outpaced the response of our government. Okay. And that is a factor that might drive up the numbers of people who are displaced by conflict. And you have, Nigeria is not one of those countries that, that fall victim to natural disasters. But the numbers may actually climb in 2018, the way it is looking. And there are reports that came from NIMET in Nigeria that we might have flood in almost 30 states of the Federation. So that's an issue. So when you look at the figures that came globally, almost 50% of that number came from sub-Saharan Africa. about 40% came from North Africa and the Middle East. Those are the spots where you have the most conflicts in the world. The rest of the numbers came from disaster zones like China and Philippines and some other places. But the numbers may go up, and it's unfortunate. But this is the time to start planning and start anticipating and start, readiness for the upsurge in numbers that might come at the end of the year.
All right, thank you so much, human rights activist Olatunji Lanre-Baruwa, for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
In Libya, Muslims are burdened by cash shortages as they struggle to welcome the month of Ramadan. With a cash crisis in their country, many Libyans find it difficult to stock up on basic food products as they begin the fasting month.
As Muslims all over the world begin the holy month of Ramadan, Libyan shoppers are crippled by a cash crisis that has hit their annual shopping sprees. Ahead of the month, when Muslims abstain from eating and drinking from dawn to dusk, many stock up on essential items and as demand increases. But Libya's currency has been losing value against the dollar, and the liquidity crisis in banks has left people with tighter budgets.
There is no liquidity in banks, so the allowance for a citizen is now around 500 Libyan dinars, an amount which isn't enough income to cover their expenses for a month. Now that Ramadan is here, if he has a family, it will be difficult for him. Even if he is able to spend and reduce consumption economically, it's still hard given the current circumstances.
Libya relies heavily on oil revenue as a source of income and foreign currency, but output is still stuck well below pre-2011 uprising levels. Many Libyans have to queue at banks to get money as banknotes have become scarce, with the economy controlled by armed and powerful groups hoarding money.
With regards to the prices, it's not just Libya, it's the entire Arab world. Honestly, when you watch the television, you can see that prices are a huge problem everywhere. But here in Libya in particular, because we're suffering from a liquidity problem, which is specific to the central bank and the finance ministry, the two bodies are not coordinating together. The citizen has suffered as a result. I wish the country can be strong right now so the citizens can start Ramadan without needing anything.
The UN-backed government and the central bank in Tripoli agreed this month on public spending of 42 billion Libyan dinars, which is about $31 billion for 2018, and that's up from 37 billion last year. It said 24.5 billion dinars will be spent on salaries, 6.5 billion dinars on subsidies for fuel and other items, and 4.7 billion for investment and 6.7 billion for other expenditures.
In Ghana, an investigation has been launched after police and soldiers clashed in the city of Tamale. According to local media, a group of soldiers went on a rampage in the northern city after one of their colleagues was arrested. 8 police officers were injured, with some needing hospital treatment. The police and the military have released a joint statement condemning the incident and assuring the public they will continue to work together to maintain peace in the country. This is the second time such an incident has happened between the two security agencies in northern Ghana. Still to come on the program, Africa Tech takes a look at initiatives to encourage more girls to study science and technology. Please stay with us.